this is a non-hand
Okay.
situation, so
Okay. Yeah.
I guess I could just talk about it and
Yeah.
just explain everything and then see what you think about it.
Okay. Cool.
So I'll just say everything first.
Sure. Go
So
for it.
this happened on October 30th. It was around 12 to 1 a.m. It's at Lucky Chances in
Okay.
Tacoma,
Okay.
California.
Mm-hmm.
It was in a 1-1-2 game.
Okay.
We're playing eight-handed outside in the parking lot under a tent,
Yeah.
and I was observing a hand. I wasn't in the hand. I was just observing this hand, and it was a small blind versus big blind hand.
Okay.
It was on the river, and then after the dealer puts out the river,
Mm-hmm.
small blind checks, and then big blind bets out. I don't remember the amount. Doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
And small blind tanks for like 10, 15 seconds,
Mm-hmm.
and then he signifies a call, and he threw out some chips,
Okay.
and then he says call.
Yep.
And then before the big blind was able to table his hand,
Mm-hmm.
the small blind immediately tables his hand, which is pocket aces,
Okay.
which is the winner.
Okay.
I guess he was confident that he had the winner since he had aces, so he confidently just flips him over,
Yep.
and then the big blind mucks. And then I've only been playing live poker for like 2 to 3 years,
Mm-hmm.
so I don't claim to know everything. I'm not a smartass,
Yep.
nor do I claim to know everything about the rules or anything.
Yep.
But after the hand, I'm obviously after playing at Lucky Chance, my local card room I live close to here. I'm more comfortable in talking to other players and table talk as I was when I first started, when I was like 22.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, once the dealer was dealing out the next hand, I just brought it up nicely. I wasn't being rude or anything to the guy that was in the small blind. I was like, hey, you were calling the bet on the river
Right.
last hand.
Right.
Aren't you supposed to let the other guy in the big blind show his hand 1st
Mm-hmm.
since he bet out on the river first?
Yeah.
So I said that, and then I was explaining what I was trying to say. Then the small blind, big blind, and the dealer were not agreeing with what I was saying. And there's multiple plexiglasses in between us. Everyone's wearing a mask and everything. So I don't know if they understood what I was trying to say. And I'll be honest, I couldn't understand anything that they were saying.
Well, okay.
I understood a little bit of what the guy in the big blind was saying. I guess he was a little annoyed that I was bringing something up
Well,
that
so
was saying that he was supposed to reveal his hand.
yeah, so here's the thing, Raymond. What I would say is that let me hypothesize as to possibly why the big blind was mad. If you've described this correct, like accurately, what you're saying is correct. Okay, so if I'm the small blind and I'm facing a river bet by somebody who's in position, they're obviously going to be in position because I'm in the small blind, and I call, right? They're supposed to show their hand first. Now, that doesn't stop me from showing my own hand first. I mean, I try not to do this. And if I don't know if you've heard, there was like a call a while back, I don't know, a few months ago, where there was a guy who was in position who faced an all-in on the river, and he called, but at the same time that he called, he revealed his hand first, even though it was the out-of-position guy that's supposed to reveal his hand because he's calling the bet. And when he revealed his hand, the other guy said, oh, wait a minute, I'm not all in. That was from like 2 or 3 years ago. I mean, excuse me, 2 or 3 months ago. So the guy in position got angled. But if you're in the small blind and the big blind bets and you call, yeah, he's supposed to turn his hand over first, but you can also turn your hand over first too. Now, where the big blind might be getting mad at you is he might think you're out of line in sort of butting your head in and telling the small blind, hey, you should wait for that guy to turn his hand over because you're not getting the information when it's not really any of your business per se. That's why he probably was a little bit upset at you. But in terms of the order of action, yes, a called hand, like if I bet and someone calls, I'm first to show down. Now, what's interesting is at Commerce, they used to do it a different way, and they changed it a few years ago. So at Commerce, which is where I've put most my career's hours in, if you were all in before the river, so let's say that you and I get it all in, on the flop or pre-flop or whatever, the action is supposed to go check, 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 check on subsequent streets. And that means, so if we get it all in on the flop, well, the turn action goes check, check, and the river action goes check, check. So if that's the case, then the out of position player is supposed to reveal the hand first because the action went check, check. most places now in LA, and I think they changed it in Commerce, where if you're all in, the last aggressor is the one that's supposed to show the hand. But of course, that's an all-ins. You're calling about somebody betting and then somebody calling, right? Yes, the big blind, the order of hand is to show first. Where this sort of comes into play, and where I kind of get it annoys me, is that when that all-in situation happens and then nobody will show their hand, it's just fucking ridiculous and it's a waste of time. Or if I'm in the small blind situation, this is really sort of a pet peeve of mine with for-profit players. Let's say you're in the small blind and you're bluff catching. You're bluff catching with the hand on the river. Like, you're checking with the intention of calling, okay? So you check, you think the guy missed a flush draw, and the big blind makes a bet and you call, okay? And the big blind says good call. At that point, when the big blind says good call, or whoever, if I'm in the small blind, when the in position person says good call and it's their turn to reveal the hand, I just roll my hand over. I don't wait for the guy to turn over whatever his bluff is. I think it's ridiculous to think that you are somehow gaining some information. The guy's just surrendering his hand. It's a good call, just roll your hand over. Now, some people might have some different opinions on that. I want to get all the information that I can. I just think it slows the game down. Somebody says good call, just roll your hand over. In your example, though, yeah, the small blind, he doesn't need to show his hand. And all the way, and by the way, too, as kind of a, not a sneaky way, but part of the way that I get some information without, so if I was the small blind in your particular example and the big blind bet and I called, I would not turn my hand over. I would wait until he turned his hand over. If he said good call, I would just roll my hand over. Another technique that I'll do is that if I'm in position and somebody checks to me and I don't want to bet, like I'm going to check behind, but I have showdown value, I'll check. So what you'll see a lot of times is small blind checks, I'm in position, and a guy in position will now just turn his hand over. And you never get to see what the out of position player has. But you don't have to do that. The small blind checks to you on the river and you've got showdown value and you don't think that your hand is needed for a value, but you can, this guy checks. Okay, I check. Small blind, action's on you. He checks. All right, I'm in the low jack. I check. He's got to turn his hand over. And there's nothing wrong with doing that. So the people that roll their hand over there, they're actually losing out on the information, right? Because the guy from out of position is supposed to act first at showdown.
Yeah.
Still with me? Yeah. I mean,
yeah, I understand.
What you're saying is correct. I think the big blind got mad at you because it's not really your business to tell the small blind, hey, this guy's supposed to turn his hand over. I think that's, some of these guys get touchy with when you're not in the hand and you're telling somebody to do, what they're going to do. I mean, that's probably what happened, but you're correct in the sense
Yeah,
that
it's understandable. I didn't look at it like that when it all happened. But yeah, it's kind of good to get your insight on it. It's just, I don't know, it's just kind of annoying to me when people do this sometimes, because there was another situation that happened to me a couple days ago when I was playing heads up against someone else, and I don't remember what the hand I had was, but it was me and another guy heads up. It was on the river, and it went. I was in position. Hold on. Was I in position or out of position? I was in position, and it went check on the river.
Mm-hmm.
And then the guy didn't say anything. I didn't say anything, but he just never flipped his hand over.
Well, that's exactly what I was talking about. That's exactly what I just said. Now, I don't know if in some rooms, maybe someone in the chat can help me out here. I'm not 100% sure, but if you bet on the turn and you're in position and you get called by someone out of position, and then the river goes check, and you still have money left, are there some rooms that force the last aggressor to show down first? Or the fact that the river goes check, I always understood it as the river goes check, the out of position player is supposed to act. But like I said, that's what I do to get to see the guy's hand, and there's nothing wrong with it. If the guy checks from up front, you want to check behind, just check. You don't need to roll your hand over. You say, okay, check, I check. He's supposed to go first. I'm not sure if there's some places where the last aggressor, I've only heard that it's really the all in.
From what I know, the guy that's out of position, if it goes check, is supposed to roll their hand over first.
Yeah.
not the guy that's in position, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, see, some people are saying in most rooms I've played in, it's the last aggressor, even if they have chips. But this is Damian Gibbs, and even if they have chips left behind. I mean, I know that like, yeah, now of course someone else says no, check on the river out of position shows first. So I mean, it's not necessarily standard, but where were you playing out of, by the way?
Lucky chances.
Lucky chances. So it's California rules, right? So
Yeah,
I mean, I would imagine that check at the end with chips
because
going
he
down.
just it went check, and he's just sitting there holding his cards, and I'm like, what the hell is this guy doing? He's out of position. He's supposed to show first, and he's just standing there staring at me, and then I point at him, signifying you roll your shit over first, and then I'll roll my shit over, and then
Well,
he finally
yeah,
did
but
it,
Raymond,
and
I
then
don't
I'll
want to
roll
get
my
it.
hand over.
Here's the thing,
And then,
Raymond.
yeah.
Okay, you don't want to get into these types of. You don't want to get into these types of things. Like I said, I'll check behind, and the guy's supposed to show his hand. Okay. If he doesn't want to show his hand, then I'm just going to show my hand. I'm a for-profit player. Like, I don't think it's that big of a deal. Even if at lucky chances the guy's supposed to show first, if he's not going to show his fucking hand, then I'll just show my hand. Let's move along. Like, unless the guy is trying to, like, I don't get mad at people that slow roll me, but, because I always say, like, 99% of, like, slow rolls are actually not slow rolls. They're unintentional. It's the other person that's trying to, like, make up an excuse to get mad at the other guy. The one clear-cut situations where someone's actually slow rolling you is if they pull that shit, you're in position at the end, check, he won't show his hand, so you're just like, all right, I'm going to show my hand, and then he turns over some hand that's obviously the winner, right? You know what I mean? That's a slow roll, but that only happens a few times. But anyways, I appreciate the call, Raymond. If you like what you've seen here, please hit the subscribe button, and if you enjoyed this call in hand, hit the like button down below. To check out crushlivepoker.com, click on the link in the description. Use the code YTA300 to get the first 30 days for free.